Hey everyone, I am super excited to introduce you to one of my really dear friends today, Ruth Lee. She has been made kind of Instagram famous after posting some really vulnerable, honest answers about being a mother and some really vulnerable pictures of herself in her C-section, and just really inspiring person on Instagram. And I'm excited for us to chat today about kind of going through postpartum and dealing with depression and dealing with trying to be healthy and dealing with trying to do a million things and being an entrepreneur and all these things that are happening in her life and how she manages. So without further ado, I'm super excited to introduce you to Ruth. Hey, Ruth. Well, I'm excited to kind of dive into, like I mentioned, what kind of started you out on this journey on Instagram. I mean, you've been on Instagram a long time, but kind of more closely in the recent months. So kind of share with us that about that post that you put up that kind of started everything, and yeah, dive on in.
Pretty much. So the post that really went viral was a post that I made. It was actually a picture that I never expected to share with anybody, which is kind of funny that that's the one that really, I mean, it's funny how it works out sometimes. It's that thing that maybe is the hardest to share that I think people need to see the most and can relate to. But it was a picture of me after I had my C-section, and I remember taking it, and at the time that I took it, I was, more than anything, it was kind of for me to show, like, this is what I've been through, because my C-section was so unexpected, and I feel like everything with my labor and the birth of my daughter was kind of so traumatic to me that me taking that picture at the time was like, oh my gosh, like, I did this, like, this is what I went through. I had been on social media for a long time. I didn't really have the biggest following, but during my pregnancy and during my fitness journey before that, I was very open about it, and I shared a lot. And with pregnancy, it was embraced and it was accepted, and you get to share everything every trimester and the bump updates and everything, and it's super happy and everybody loves it. And then for a lot of women, you reach this point where you're postpartum and you have a baby and you start going through some things maybe that are difficult and that you didn't expect to face. And it's kind of like, I guess, you're faced with this choice, like, do I keep posting like just all these happy things and kind of keep everything else inside? And that's kind of what social media is about. And it's people putting everything, like, the happiest and sharing, like, the best moments, and most people don't share the hard things. And so for me, it just felt so much more authentic to post everything, and that's why I ended up sharing that picture, because I remember so vividly that night that I decided to post it. And it was actually not so much like me feeling strong or like victorious, because in the moment I actually was really sad. And I remember I don't know, I was scrolling through Instagram and I was seeing all of these, like, postpartum pictures that women were sharing after they had their baby, and I'm sure everyone's seen them, or you've seen them, where they're just perfect again and everything, yeah. Like, everything's great and everything's beautiful. And I remember sitting there and just have had my baby a few months ago and being like, this isn't what I'm experiencing. This isn't how I feel. And of course you have so many beautiful and good moments. But at the time, especially, I was facing a lot of different feelings too. And I just felt that, I mean, it just seemed more genuine and real to me to share everything. And so at the time, it was just kind of me putting it out there, I guess. And also I think one of the hardest things, especially for women, if you're going through postpartum depression or you're going through any kind of sadness after you're having a baby, you feel super alone. And I think that's true with a lot of mental illness and with depression in general.
Right.
I think the hardest thing is you feel like you're so alone and you're the only one going through this. And even those closest to you, maybe you don't talk to about it. Of course, there's different reasons why, and I feel like that all ties in with why I continue to post about it is trying to break that stigma and trying to make it more acceptable to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, I think it's perfect. I'm
like going on forever.
No, you're good. I think it's what people need to hear right now, so it's perfect. But definitely, I think something I really connect with you about, because I'm not a mom and I've never been through postpartum, but like we've known each other since we were kids. We've seen us both go through like actual depression outside of postpartum and anxiety and this need of constantly being perfect. And you spoke about it the other day on your Instagram, how part of your biggest struggle was you were a new mom and a new wife, and you had expected your whole life to kind of like take this on and be perfect. And again, I'm not a mom, but that was my biggest thing when I had got married was like, all right, I'm married now, like got to be the perfect wife and show up and do everything perfectly. And when you're faced with a lot of struggles where it's like, I'm not doing anything right, and then it feels like, you know, worse. And so the depression kind of spirals because now you're like hating on yourself for like not doing everything right and not being as like naturally perfect as you thought you would be. So I share some of that. I know you've talked about that a lot recently on Instagram.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most difficult parts. And again, I think exactly as you said, this relates to so much more than being a new mom and postpartum depression specifically, but because that, I mean, it was so, I don't know, it was so kind of unexpected for me to face that and face my worst depression I ever had at this time, because exactly like you said, especially for me, I have a big family, and my whole life I was so excited to be a mom. I always was drawn to the idea, and I just really was raised with this super big drive naturally that like that's what I wanted to do. So when it finally happened and I finally was a mom, you know, you have a whole lifetime of expectation kind of and anticipation. And so that's why I think when I was faced with kind of feelings that I didn't have control over, it's just crazy how like you don't expect that to happen, and then you have these bad feelings, and then you get guilt because you are experiencing those feelings, and you're just like, why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't be feeling this way. I have a beautiful daughter. You know, I went through all of these things, but now I'm on the other side of it, you know, physically, and this is everything that I've ever wanted. This is everything that I've been waiting for, and so why am I feeling this way? And, you know, and I think a lot of times people do that. And like you said, with mental illness in general, there's so much guilt attached to it. And you, on one side of your brain, you just want to talk yourself out of it.
Right. Because what the rest of the world is, they're telling you like, why aren't you happy? Look how blessed you are. Look at your beautiful life. And it's hard for them. They don't understand it.
And that was one of the biggest hurtful things that came out of it was after everything did kind of go viral and explode. Of course, you have these opinions of people all over the world coming at you, and even being messaged to me, and people just being like, "Why, don't be ungrateful for what you have. There are so many people that want to be where you are, and I understand that, and I don't want to take anything away from that or how other people feel or their experiences.
But it doesn't make your feelings less valid.
Right.
And that's the biggest takeaway. People need to understand.
Exactly. And so I think, you know, even after be seeing those kinds of comments, which I halfway expected, but when they actually were directed at me, it was a different feeling. I was like, I just want to be, I'm a very positive person, and that's another hard thing. And I know you are too. And so I think it's hard to talk about anything other than positivity. And, you know, and that's obviously, positivity is a platform that I really want to base everything on. But at the same time, I want people to realize that you can be a happy person and a positive person and be able to still share your story. And not everybody's story is 100%.
Right. Well, and like one of my favorite quotes is something about how like happiness is like a tree that's got its roots in deep sorrow and sadness. And I think like that's important to understand too, is as much as we are like, yay, positive, we have to be realistic and know that like life's not always positive. It's just about like how we react to it and how we, you know, make the steps to move forward positively. But yeah, life's not always rainbows. And that's what I love about your Instagram feed is you share that like things are going to be shitty some days and that's okay. Like, you know.
And that's the biggest reason too. I'm not sharing these things or writing about this to like focus on negativity or focus on sadness. More than anything, it's kind of just a platform for people to realize that it's okay to talk about it, and you're not the only person that's experiencing it. And I think I get asked a lot why I personally think that my posts went viral. And I really believe that that's because I think people were so like refreshed to see somebody who, you know, I post about beauty, I post about fitness, I post about all these, you know, kind of in a way superficial things, and then to see that also that there's, I mean, basically that it can happen to anybody.
Yeah, and that there's like a raw, authentic human under the makeup and the showcase on Instagram.
Right. And it makes people connect. And, you know, I think when you're building a social media persona, so to speak, you know, people will follow you for different reasons. But I think the reason a lot of people are still following me and actually are, you know, comment to me and DM me is because they feel like on a deeper level, they know who I am. And that's something that makes me really happy. And that's something that I continue to strive for because like all of these things that I experience and everything, that's such a big part of who I am that I feel that if I didn't post about that, it just wouldn't, I don't know, it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't make sense, you know what I mean? And I don't want to put on like a facade of who I am because
Well, and that's kind of a perfect segue into some of the other things I want to talk about because you kind of mentioned like your beauty blogger. By the way, you inspired me to put mascara on today, which is a big deal. You guys, her beauty stuff is amazing. I just can't handle like how awesome she is. But also like fitness has always kind of been your jam. And I know it was like a struggle for you to get back into it after having Presley and everything else. But tell us a little bit about like what got you so interested in fitness and how you've continued once you've become a mom.
I feel like, and probably for you too, but I was pretty active and I was always outside. When you have sunshine 99% of the year, you're out and you're doing things all the time. And growing up, I was closest in my childhood to my 3 brothers. And so I was people might be surprised, but I was actually like a pretty big tomboy. You're not.
I remember.
But other people might be surprised. I was actually a pretty big tomboy growing up. And so it was just always natural to me to be doing things in that aspect. And when I was like about 18, 19 was when I first started getting into, I say modeling, but it wasn't like runways. It was just very local. It was almost more like a hobby, you know, like local stuff, things like that. but that was when I started modeling, and that was when I first had a really unhealthy perspective on my body and how I should look, and I always was kind of reaching for that unattainable idea of what someone should look like. And I remember doing this modeling and going to these shoots and wanting to look a certain way, and I remember feeling so week. And I remember because for some photo shoots I literally I wouldn't eat because I thought that would make me look skinnier that day. So I just remember going through this process of just wanting to look appealing, but then I just felt so weak. I didn't feel good, strong. And when I was 21, my older brother got started in bodybuilding competitions.
I remember.
Yeah. And he was somebody that was so inspiring to me because he was someone, he was born very prematurely. And so he had a really rough start, and he was always kind of like that scrawny person growing up. And he was bullied in that aspect, and he never was somebody, he was the last person you would expect to see in a bodybuilding competition. But he figured it out, and it became his passion, and he was very successful at it. And going to see him at one of his shows, that was the first time that I was really exposed to that. And I think it's this modern age of fitness that we're in today. This was kind of the beginning of that, where I saw these girls, and they still had that aspect of being beautiful and being aesthetic, and in a bikini competition they still have that full glam that was drew me in. I was like, this is cool. I was like, what's going on here? And then, but at the same time, they looked strong. They didn't have that look that I previously thought was so desirable. And so that really changed my perspective about everything, and I wanted to know more. And so I learned a lot from my brother, and then that was also the first time that I did a lot of my own research and got a personal trainer for the first time. And I was just super all about everything that I could get my hands on in that aspect. Again, I think at the time it was kind of a little more selfish reasoning to want to be in it, and kind of more focusing on the looks aspect and how my body looked. And it took, honestly, being 100% real, it probably took me going through being pregnant and having my baby to wanting actually to be into fitness for how I felt. And I think that ties into with a little bit of the postpartum depression and just kind of how I viewed myself after having a baby. I had that moment. I was like, look at everything that I've been through. Look at everything that I did. And how can I not view myself as a strong person? I'm a strong person. And so me going back into fitness after having my baby, I kind of wanted to match that. I wanted to be strong, and it helps to have my daughter, because that for me is the best motivation ever, because I want to be able to keep up with her and feel good physically, and emotionally and mentally about myself, so that I can be an example to her. So me getting back into fitness now it's a totally different journey.
I just think that that's a really good way for you to think about it, because that's kind of my journey too. As I always explain to people, I got into fitness young because I was so anxious at a young age about looking good, because I read all these teen magazines, and I was obsessed, and I would Britney Spears does 100 sit-ups a night. I'm going to do 100 sit-ups a night because I want to look like Britney Spears. And it was so about the physical, and it was honestly more related to my depression and never feeling good enough, and that lack of confidence. So I had to work out because I wasn't good enough just who I was. I had to be skinny and whatever to be accepted. And even starting yoga, that's how I kind of started, was I'm doing yoga to stay thin. And then you get to a point where something shifts and you start to love yourself regardless. And when that shift happens, it does change to I'm working out now because I'm trying to keep my body as healthy as it can be because my body deserves to be healthy, or I'm trying to be the best role model for my daughter, or, all these different things. And it's no longer about the physical. It's more about like feeling healthy, taking care of ourselves because we deserve to. I like that shift.
Being more, I guess, aware of your mental state about it. And like you said, you have to already love yourself, really. And that's what I tell people all the time. One of the biggest things I hear from people that I've been working with in regards to fitness is, oh, like, I hate my body, I hate the way I look, and that's why I'm here. Like, that's why I want to, do this workout program or follow you or do this thing. It's because I hate myself. And I'm like, no. You don't want to do this because you hate yourself. Because if you hate yourself, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't, be wanting to do these things. It's because you love yourself. And that's really what you need to remember, because you're doing it for you. And I think that's just one thing I want to kind of teach to people. And so they have that attitude when it's like, you're right. Like, I do love myself, and that's why I'm going to, do this workout today. I do love myself. That's why I'm going to change the way I'm eating. Because I think the people that go into it with that negative mindset of, oh, I'm doing this because, I hate the way I look, I hate the way I feel. And those are the people, that most of the time, if they continue that negativity, it's just not going to last. They're not going to they're not going to stay with it. You know what I mean? And so,
right.
I think just expressing that and influencing, and I think you're like my role model in that.
Oh my gosh, that's so mind-blowing.
No, weird. No, but you're so in tune with like your soul and everything, and I think that's why you're so effective and passionate about everything that you've been doing lately. Especially with yoga and your eating and really everything you're doing. And I think that's one of the biggest like tips of advice I could give somebody, that if you want to make a positive change and you want to like actually reach your goals, you have to realize your worth and like your value, and like you can't what am I trying to say? You can't, you're not going to ever be successful until you realize that you have the potential to be successful, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also like, let's get back to the realness and authenticity about like life too. Like, I think a misconception people have about me all the time is that like, oh, you're so healthy. Like, you probably do tons of yoga every day and like manage all this stuff. And I'm like, I just need to stop giving off that impression, because like, definitely try to work out when I can. Definitely try to eat vegan when I can. Definitely try like all these things. But like, let's be real about life right now. Like, that's not happening every day, or, as much as any of us would like for it to. And that's okay. And like, kind of chat a little bit about like, you are trying to stay fit, trying to be a mom, trying to be a good wife, starting a business of your own. Like, you've got blogs happening. All this stuff. How do you realistically keep up with fitness and being healthy and everything else you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Who knows?
It's so funny because, and that's another thing that, I think when you are seeing someone on their social media and it's just like, how is this person doing everything? How do they do everything? And in regards to me, the answer is I don't.
Right.
And I try, if I, on my Snapchats or on my Insta stories or things where I can be posting throughout the day, I think people can see that, and it's funny because, I started really being passionate about eating better, and, I do a lot of like my meal preps on my videos and everything, but I also will post, when I make an ice cream pie. Like, I still post that because that's still real life. And that's the thing is, there's definitely a balance, and balance is healthy, and balance is so important. And I think if you put this pressure on yourself that I need to do this 100% of the time, again, you run into that cycle where you're going to just hit a wall and you're just going to give up on everything.
And you're never good enough.
Right. I can't maintain this 100% of the time, so I'm just going to stop doing it. And so I think that's just super unhealthy. And I mean, like I don't eat healthy 100% of the time. I like Taco Bell a lot, and my followers know that, and it's like so weird and like embarrassing. I know. I mean, even yesterday I was having just one of those days, and I was just like, how, I don't know, like how, you go so positive for so long, and then I still had just a super bad day. And that's just the way it is. And I can't beat myself about it.
Well, and you have so much going on. So, I mean, how could you not kind of have days where you're like, I just need to disconnect for today and not be perfect, Ruth, and like whatever. Tell us kind of about some of the things that you have coming up. I mean, you've got fitness programs launching with some meal stuff and like other, I mean, I'm so excited about it. So tell us, what do you got cooking?
Yay, I know. I'm so excited. One of the biggest things too I want to touch on is I think I got the okay from my doctor 3 weeks after I gave birth that I could start doing like light exercises, yoga, things like that again. And to me, this green light just like clicked on, and I was like, I'm getting back into everything. I'm going back full throttle. Like, I'm so excited to, have my baby out and have my body back to myself. Like, I'm ready to get serious and get back into it. And I think too, that's kind of where a lot of my unhealthy thoughts and feelings came back into play. And one of the things I want to just really tell people is something that people say is that, it took 9 months to grow a baby, and it's going to take you 9 months to, give yourself time to get back to normal. And I remember hating when people would say that. People would say that to me all the time. I would be like a month or two postpartum, and I would just feel like I had to be right back into like pre-baby everything. Like, I just wanted to feel exactly how I used to feel. And I would be so frustrated when I didn't feel that way. And everyone was like, yeah, because you took this whole year of growing someone, and it's going to take your body time to adjust back. And again, I would just hate it. I hated when people would tell me that. And I was like, no, I'm going to work super hard, and I'm going to beat that. And I just put all this pressure on myself, and those first few months were super tough. And so now I'm 10 months postpartum, and I swear to you, after that 9-month mark hit, it was like somebody clicked a switch. Seriously.
Wow.
And like everything, I was like, I feel like myself again. Like, I feel in a lot of ways. And so when people say that, give yourself time to rest and to adjust everything, I fully agree with that. But that being said, and it's not always 9 months, and that's just, something people say. Some people, it takes a really long time. And of course, a lot of things aren't always going to go back 100% of the way, but it's just, I think the biggest thing I want to tell people is allow yourself that time, and don't fall into that, right after you give birth, trying to race back to where you started, because it's just not, it's not a good time.
Leave that to the celebrities, right?
So anyways, that being said, now that I feel like I've reached a certain point and I really feel like 100% ready to be doing all these things again, I feel like I allowed myself a lot of time to kind of heal properly and to figure myself out and to figure my body out again. But now I just feel so confident and just so ready to be starting up these different things. So one of those things that I'm so excited about is I'm working with the company to launch workout programs and talk about meal prep ideas, and to just, one of the things I'm most excited about is that I have a private Facebook group now with the people that are doing my challenge and everything, that actually get to message me and comment me, and they share like their stories with me. And it's just so, to be, when everything did go super viral, I had a lot of women that would message me and tell me how it changed them. And that was the biggest blessing and like the biggest reason, you know, I just feel like this is why I was supposed to share this, you know, like this person said this thing to me, and like it doesn't matter what negativity comes from it or anything, like this is why I did it. And then so now being in the opportunity to actually work with people directly with their fitness goals and to hear from them, you know, results that they're actually getting and having those conversations is it's just so inspiring, and it inspires me to kind of keep going too.
Yeah.
And always have these people that are looking up to you, and in kind of a funny turnabout way, like I'm the one that is being inspired and is learning from these people. And so to be in that position has been, I mean, it's unreal. I still can't really comprehend it, I don't think.
No, it's hard to wrap your brain around. I say it all the time teaching yoga too. Like I tell my students all the time, like, you think I'm teaching you, but really, like, you're teaching me so much more. And they don't ever believe me, but it's so true. Like when you're able to influence people, they're influencing you right back. It's like the way that the world kind of works. Everything goes around. So I love that you're doing that.
Yeah, and so that's been fun, and I've only that's only really been happening for about the past month. And it just, you know, it's funny because I had been into fitness for so long, and I, you know, in the ways of the world, I probably looked the part more like maybe a year or two ago than I do now, but my mentality about it now and like my reasoning and my drive, I feel like the reason that all of this is happening right now is because now is really when I'm ready, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm still, I mean, to say you're ready for anything is crazy, but I feel like I'm more ready for it now than I ever was. And so it's just super exciting, and it's just still unreal to me. But it's been awesome. And then that's just been really what I've been working as far as fitness wise. But everything else has just really taken off. And, you know, people ask me, I have girls that message me that want to work on their social media and their influence status and everything. And they just want advice. They want to know how they can be, you know, in a greater position maybe on social media. And I feel like people are just looking for like a magic answer, you know, or like, this is what you have to do. And it's just not, for me, it just is not that way. And I feel the only advice that I can give them, but it's 100% real, is to just be yourself. And that's why people are going to follow you. You know, I think that there are so many people in the world that, you know, can be pretty or can do this or can look good on social media. And granted, a lot of those people do have a super big following, but I think everybody has a story to share that makes them unique and that makes them special. And that's what draws people in, really. That's what is going to make people want to, you know, listen to you. And again, like with that advice, it's what I say is you don't have to, but if you're looking for like people to follow you, you need to give them, you know, a reason why. You need to give them your why. And I think for most people, that's just telling your story. Or for some people, that's just sharing your talents. Or, you know, it's social media is so much more than just sharing images or sharing pictures or selfies, you know, and of course we do that too. But you're sharing yourself, you know what I mean? And that's why, I don't know. So I've really kind of come into that fully, and it's made me think about, you know, what are my talents? What can I give people? Why do I want people to follow me? And like, how am I going to keep people staying with me and staying with my journey? And so it's just kind of been finding that balance of what I can give back to people. And that's kind of, I don't know, everything is taken off from there, like everything with fitness. And then with my beauty blogging, it's like been crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so funny because I've always had this love for makeup and I haven't always been good at it. For sure.
I remember.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. It's so funny because you knew me like when I first started. I can't even, I like try to remember, but I think like psychologically I like blocked it out.
Just cut it out.
Yeah. I remember people telling me like you know, people used to say like you kind of look like a raccoon because you would just take eyeliner and like you didn't know what you were doing with it, and it was just like crazy. And then like I remember going to the grocery store to pick out foundation, and I would just get whatever was on sale. Like it didn't matter the skin tone. Like it didn't matter if it matched me or not. Like if it was cheaper, like I'm getting that. So like it never looks good. And so, you know, it's like I didn't always have like this second nature of doing this. And I think that's kind of something I want to share with people too. And that's why I do a lot of like my throwbacks or my transformations. And it's just like I want to share with people, you know, if someone tells you like you don't know how to do makeup, you like don't look good, like what are you doing? You know, that doesn't have to be your forever. That doesn't have to be, you know, something that you stick with. And like I just feel like people are so much more capable of what other people tell us that we are. You know what I mean? And so yeah, that's like a whole other thing. But
I love it. No, I think it's good. I think this interview is super good because if somebody's not already following you like they should be, like you've just given them a million reasons to, like you're just purely raw, you're giving a lot of valuable content, whether it's about beauty or fitness or just being a mom or just being a human, trying to like fit in this world as authentically as you can. You have a lot of good stories to teach people, and I love following you. You inspire me, so I'm glad it kind of again works full circle.
We have a relationship, I think.
Yeah, and it's nice kind of watching each other do kind of similar things, but yet so different. Like with our lives where we're at right now, it's cool to like still have a lot of connection with what we're doing. So super rad. So if they do want to follow you and like keep up with this awesome fitness challenge you're doing or the beauty blogs or everything else, where can they find you on the web?
So the biggest resource, and like if you pick one resource only, I would say Instagram. That's kind of where everything has mostly taken off for me. And on my Instagram, I'm always keeping everyone updated. Like I post, you know, this is my Snapchat, this is my YouTube, this is the challenge. So everything that I do really comes full circle into Instagram.
For sure, like your blog. What's your blog name?
Yes. So my name is Ruth Lee. That's my full name. And so my blog is themoteyogi.blog. And that's definitely, my blog is one of the biggest things that is a goal of mine to improve and to be more consistent on. And so I see that becoming a much better resource than I think it is now. But still, I mean, it has, if you want to get into like the nitty gritty and like the actual writing that I do, that's where that's going to be. I started my YouTube in the end of June, I think. So that's pretty new still. But again, not something, I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out.
That's where they can find like the beauty resources and the fitness challenge?
Yes.
Well, let's not keep people all day because me and you can chat about all of this stuff for hours. So what's any final advice or last bit of information that you want to leave our listeners with?
Ooh, that's like a heavy.
Ooh.
I talk about beauty a lot, but I don't think beauty is always those things that, you know, are aesthetic, that look good. I think, you know, my tagline for my blog is finding beauty in every day. And, you know, it's like you said, sometimes we have those really crappy, hard days, but there are always things we can take away, or, you know, finding beauty in even those days that we, you know, it's a little bit harder to do. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know. I guess it's hard.
I think the tagline, that's like the perfect way to kind of summarize everything.
Yeah. So, yeah. I guess the biggest thing is I have such a hard time, especially when I had these articles going out, I was just labeled as a beauty blogger.
Yeah.
And you know, and now I kind of like tend to refer to myself as that, and I guess that's what I am. But that title was kind of hard for me to like completely be okay with, and so I just want people to know that there's just a lot more going on with that. And
yeah, there's more to you than just beauty and a pretty face and a pretty body, and yeah, again, that's why you have such an audience, and I think if anyone glances for longer than a second, they know that. So yeah. Awesome. Well, we're going to have an awesome blog post about this. So if you're watching this on YouTube instead of the blog, the link is down below, and you can check out a little bit more about Ruth. I've got links to all of her stuff there, and some fun photos of her so you can get to know her and her cute family a little bit better. And if you guys have any questions, comment in this video or comment on the blog, and we will get back to you, whoever it's addressed to, and make sure that we keep this awesome dialogue going, because I think talking about postpartum depression, talking about the struggle of fitness and struggle of like trying to be this perfect image all the time is a conversation that needs to be talked about more. So thank you, Ruth, so much for helping to engage people in this dialogue.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy that we could do this. Finally.
I know life gets crazy. When I'm like, okay, so I'm 12 hours ahead of you, 13 now, something. I'm a long ways ahead of her over here in Vietnam, and she's back in Utah in a big struggle to get this to happen, but yay.
But it's definitely meant a lot to me, and I love everything that you're doing too, and so I'm excited to be part of it. And
I'm going to let you guys know, I'm going to post all the information. She's doing this really huge giveaway right now, and I'm going to post all about it on the blog. So when does that end?
So it actually started today. Well, yeah, today. So it started today, September 20th, and then it lasts a week long. So the winners are going to be announced live on September 27th.
Cool. All right. So I'll make sure to include tons of information about that too. And if you guys want to know more, I'll link it back to her Instagram. And yay. So sorry, I'm like so glad I threw that in last minute. Like, oh my God, this is a huge like $1,000 prize that like people need to know about. So awesome. Well, thanks again, Ruth. Everyone, seriously check out everything I'm linking below because she's fabulous. And stay tuned to The Remote Yogi. I'm going to be featuring some other really cool interviews coming up, and continuing to put out some awesome yoga content and stuff about travel. So stay updated with me. And yeah, thanks again. We are so happy to have shared this moment with the rest of you who are watching, reading, listening. Bye, guys.
I have like so much going on up here. It's just hard to.
Oh my gosh! I just realized we never mentioned your challenge.
You scared me so bad. I thought you were gonna say that this hike hasn't been recording. You're like,
oh my God. No, you don't want to. If I get smart enough with like my editing, I can put little things down below here. So there might magically be things below here. There might not be, people, because let's be real, I'm not genius with video.